Greetings, I'm Dr. Max Gomez, and we are interviewing a number of experts here at the Fifth International Vatican Conference. And of course, now we are honored to have Dr. Mehmet C, who probably needs no introduction. Mehmet, welcome. Nice to see you again.
Same, Max.
Like both of us, we have spent a lot of time going to different scientific meetings, conferences, and so forth. And they tend to be focused on a theme, a topic, an organ, kind of siloed. You've been to these Vatican conferences with us before. Tell me what do you think is the value of this kind of conference?
Well, there's a reason this conference and ones like it have been around for 175 years. It's because you want the Venn diagrams of thoughtful people to overlap. In other words, we all have areas of expertise, but mine are different from yours, and certainly ours are closer to each other than many of the other folks we will meet at this conference. And when you have people who are very different from each other, and not just different in what they know, but they have different values, not because they're right or wrong, but because as a species, we want people with different values around because they help us protect each other from things that we don't recognize. They cover our blind spots for each other. And so when you can look at our areas of interest and expertise and realize that they're ones that overlap with others, we double down, learn extra in those areas, and then we fill in huge areas. We color in our psyche with people different from us who can open our eyes to opportunities. And I think when you widen the vista of our wisdom, of our vision, by interacting with other people under the auspices of these Vatican conferences, it elevates it to a whole different level.
So speaking of these Venn diagrams that you brought up, I know you've spent some time studying the intersection of the mind and disease, right? Can the right mindset really ease the suffering, even of the toughest diseases?
Without question. And I'm still clinically active. I still see it at the hospital all the time. You know, pain, unfortunately, unavoidable. It's going to happen in our lives. Suffering, however, is not necessary, and certainly not for all the pain that is out there. And the reason we can sometimes weather the pain in our lives and avoid the suffering is because of each other. We are the safety net for each other. We always have been. And so when we can crutch on each other, look in each other's eyes, because our brain grew the size that it was, not so we can go hunting. You need a walnut-sized brain to fire an arrow. The reason our brains got large is to look in each other's faces and read what we are feeling and experiencing and suffering from, to hear each other's words and voices and read between the lines, so to speak, because we hear much more than just the actual words. And I think our mindsets allow us to process all the incoming in very different ways. In fact, depression happens when you run out of ideas of how to deal with the world in front of you. It's actually complexity management that is the pandemic that I think much of the world is facing right now. And that causes immense suffering, even when you don't have true physical pain. And 50% of visits to doctors' offices are for emotional issues, not clear medical issues that we would treat with a scalpel. You can't heal with steel when it's a mindset that is holding you back.
It actually can have an impact on the physical body and physical healing.
Continuously seen. I mean, so many Americans have conditions that are probably an intersection of a chronic medical problem, often with inflammation, that undermines the ability of the mind to cope. Then a feedback loop starts to make you nihilistic about your ability to get past, let's say, a pain syndrome. And then that fires back and makes you that much more depressed. And then your sleep falls apart. And then you no longer exercise. You're not creative. You can't cope. And that cycle viciously continues. And now if you can stop it, just find a place to cut it so that cycle can't continue, it can free you. And I think one of the elements of this Vatican Conference that's so uplifting for me is you see people who can do that with very different approaches, some through faith, some through science, but there's great wisdom out there. And sometimes we, for some reason, box ourselves off. We think we're protecting ourselves by putting fences up, walls up between ourselves. And then one day we realized actually those were walls that created a prison for us. We put ourselves in a cage thinking we're protecting ourselves. This Vatican Conference breaks those barriers down. It creates a not just a freeing element, but also a comfort in being free.
The message there is reach out to other people around you. Not only is there help, but that will help us all heal.
I think the best healing happens when you find something to be grateful for, often because someone else made you realize it. And you're often grateful for them, family, for example. I mean, it's rare that I would operate on somebody and not insist that they have someone that they want near them, because I tell them, listen, I want to celebrate with somebody, so tell me who you care about. But if they don't have anybody in their lives that they think care about them, that's the problem for me to deal with before I take them to heart surgery, because there's a bigger issue there than just the blocked coronary artery that I can fix pretty quickly.
Of course. Dr. Mehmet Oz, thank you for really insightful and unique look at mind and healing in the body. Thank you.
You're welcome, Max.